You're listening to the PRO Media Network. The next level in entertainment.
There he goes, throwing it down! How about a poster? Anthony Davis is on fire!
You're listening to the Pelicans Postgame Report on the PRO Media Network for all things Pelicans.
For all things Pelicans, you're now tuned in to the Pelican Postgame Report on the PRO Media Network. I'm Big Q chiming with you. Pelican Postgame Report, episode 314. That's right, 314 on the Pelican Postgame Report. And fam, what can I tell you, man? I was saying for a while, man, AD's not going anywhere, man. He's not going anywhere. The man's not going nowhere. But if you think about it, the writing, the tea leaves were lining up. And I'll break that down momentarily, but give you a round of applause for joining us today on the Pelican Postgame Report on the PRO Media Network. A show for all things New Orleans Pelican talk and everything involving. Right now, the Pelicans are the talk of the league, not in a good way. The franchise cornerstone, Anthony Davis, who's been here for several years, is now wants out. What's the reason he wants out? Because he says he wants to play for a contender. This is going to be excellent. We also have recaps from Detroit, the Detroit Pistons matchup in which the Pelicans lost 98-94, the Thunder matchup in which the Pelicans lost 122-116, and the San Antonio Spurs matchup in which the Pelicans lost 126-114. Now, how did this all transpire? How did it all happen? It took a while to unfurl, so walk with me on this one here, people. Last year, of course, Andy Davis. Well, of course, the speculation began to churn because around that same time, Anthony Davis purchased a house in Los Angeles. People say, well, these NBA players and athletes they own homes in multiple areas. So that's not a big deal. Switching agents, buying a home in Los Angeles, and then the rigmarole of hearing these trade situations unfurl. The news leaked out, and at the time, news leaked out about a possible scenario which involves Anthony Davis going to Los Angeles to play with the Lakers. At the time, the Lakers, the Pelicans, once again behind the eight ball, should have done something then. They should have filed a report then. They're going to wait till today to do it. But you can't always blame this on the Lakers. This falls squarely upon the shoulders of the administration of the New Orleans Pelicans. And I've been yelling it from day one about this coach, Elvin Gentry, who was picked by Dale Demps. I keep saying it over and over again. The team is not going anywhere with Elvin Gentry there because in his mind, he wants to play. He turned Anthony Davis into a small ball center. And I kept telling you don't want to play small ball center. The man doesn't want to play center every 82 damn games of the year. But in his mind, that gives you the best opportunity to win because he said, well, the league is turning small ball. What should we? Well, then change the damn lane, the slogan of do it big to what is it going to be now? Do anything. That's what it's just going to change to because now the Pelicans are forced to move once again another cornerstone. It's like going back to the Chris Paul trade. Anybody getting that nostalgic feeling? It's the same deal that happened with Chris Paul. Same exact deal. The man lost faith in the organization. That's basically what it comes down to. He lost faith in the organization. He wants to play for a contender that's going to win a championship. What is that telling you about this team? He don't feel that they are capable of playing for a championship. It's amazing, man. So, of course, we're going to cover today the rest of the news. Of course, The man's willing to turn down. Good grief. You're going to lose Anthony Davis, the second best player in the league. This is really sad. Really sad. And we just coming down off of the unnatural feeling of what happened with the Saints in the playoffs, an NFC Championship game, and then a week later you have to deal with Anthony Davis, second best player in the league behind LeBron, saying he doesn't want to be here no more. You talking about gut punch for the athletics, the pro athletics of the New Orleans area. Good grief. Could we take any more people? Sad. But anyway, in today's show, 314, we're going to talk about that. We're going to see who's at fault. We're going to see who's the possible trade scenarios for this to happen. Before we get right into it, let's listen to what ESPN's Wojnarowski reported, because he was the first to drop this bombshell. Of course, the deal was Anthony Davis's people let the Pelicans know over the weekend. A little information, inside information, the Pelicans were attempting to trade Julius Randle, Nikolai Mirotic, and Etwan Moore they were seeking offers for those guys over the weekend, because Anthony Davis's people informed them over the weekend that he was not going to accept a contract and he wanted to be traded. They knew that. So you destroy the team. You know, we're going to cover the rest of this, but let's hear what Wojnarowski had to say about what happened in the building, the Pelicans.
Well, they have essentially fallen out of the playoff race here. Injuries to teammates. Anthony Davis has been out. It certainly gives them a window now between today and the February 7th trade deadline to find a deal ostensibly to the Lakers. Now, Paul and Davis have not told New Orleans that they prefer to be traded to L.A. They haven't told the rest of the league, hey, we're going to only sign an extension, but we won't sign an extension with you. We'll only go to L.A. in free agency in 2020. It may come to that, but right now there's a window where L.A. and some others can negotiate with the Pelicans on a trade, and Boston can't, because they're in a contractual situation with Kyrie Irving and Anthony Davis where they can't have both on the same roster until after July 1.
So is Davis concerned at all about how this looks? He was playing the team guy for so long.
Listen, I think Anthony Davis is a sensitive guy, and he has loved being in New Orleans. And I do think he has wanted it to work there. And, you know, he could sign a 5-year, $240 million Supermax extension this summer. He can't get that. He can't sign that elsewhere. But for Davis, by him telling New Orleans this now, it allows them to know where he stands, to know that his future is not going to include them. And the one thing that I'm told Paul did not do over the weekend when he told New Orleans, he did not say we want this done by the trade deadline. Mm-hmm. He just said we want to be moved. We aren't going to sign the extension this summer, and we're not going to re-sign in 2020. But New Orleans is under no great pressure to do a deal between now and the February 7th deadline.
So what do they do?
Well, I think right now what they do, they're huddling this morning, and they've got to start taking on offers and see what is out there. There are going to be teams who are contenders right now who see Anthony Davis as a player who might be able to help them get to the finals, might be able to help them win a championship. And they're already discussing internally, and some have been doing it for a while. If we trade for Davis and just treat him as a rental, try to win this year, and he doesn't want to stay with us, and after this season he said, hey, I'm going to leave in 2020, well, then we trade him at auction to Boston, to L.A., and we can recoup the assets that we traded New Orleans from Boston or L.A., and in the meantime, we get Anthony Davis to make a run. So there's a lot of scenarios out there that might pique New Orleans' interest.
Okay, so it puts New Orleans...
There it is, y'all. That's a little word from Wojnarowski's. He reported it, the first to report this deal about Anthony Davis, requesting the trade and telling the organization that he wasn't going to be there anymore. Very interesting, to be quite honest with you, because, you know, we kind of seen this coming. I've been documenting over the season about the fact that Anthony Davis said in the previous seasons that he didn't want to play center, and I'm not saying that's the key reason why he doesn't want to be here. He lost faith in the team. How do you lose faith in the team? You're playing with these guys, you practice with these guys. The man go out there, he throws 40 points in a game, and sooner or later you get weary. You realize, you look around and say, man, we're not going anywhere. injuries are mounting, and the ownership is just sitting pat saying, well, we're going to wait for the injuries to go away, then evaluate the team. Are you crazy? Are you sick? It's wanted to keep him. You should at least, I've been saying it the entire time, all this crap that's been happening with the Pelicans. Thibodeau got fired from the Minnesota Timberwolves after beating the Lakers by 22 points, because at least I can say that the ownership, and I'm crazy about Gail Benson, but the guys in there, Mickey Loomis and the rest of these guys that sit at the top of these organizations, have done a crazy job here. Crazy job. It started when they gave Dale Demps 2 hats. They created a vice president of basketball operations, which they should have given that job to Joe Dumars, who is a basketball person, who's won titles as a player and as an administrator. Joe Dumars was interested in the position. They didn't give it to him because it probably was about the money. He probably wanted the money because he deserved the money. He had the credentials. So instead of hiring him, what they did was they just gave the position to Dale Demps. That's not what they were supposed to do. That was totally stupid. Fast forward, you get rid of Monty Williams, you bring in Elvin Gentry. Elvin Gentry scores a lot of points, but he plays no defense. He doesn't teach defense. His schemes defensively suck. And then his idea of making the Pelicans into a contender is turning them into a small ball team, like what they were, moving Anthony Davis to center, which I believe that Anthony Davis is the best 4 in the game, not the best 5 in the game. Certain nights you could play him there, certain nights you shouldn't play him there. And that was my point, is that it's not enough usage of the bench, not enough utilization of the key pieces on the Pelicans that really work toward their advantage. And I just thought it was entirely stupid, really dumb, foolish, ignorant, just every other word that you could possibly think of the way how this team was being ran. The team was massively underachieving. Instead of firing coaches and bringing on better defensive coaches, he kept the same people. No changes were made. That's absolutely asinine. Absolutely asinine. What the hell do you expect what was going to happen? We've been saying this for a while. I've been saying this. Go back and listen to the Pelican postgame reports when I kept saying the way Elvin Gentry is conducting this team, he's going to run Anthony Davis off. Anthony Davis lost faith in Elvin Gentry because what has Elvin Gentry got to show? What the hell has he ever done in his life as a head coach? You should get rid of the general manager. You should get rid of the head coach and his staff. And you should get rid of, if you lose Anthony Davis, which they did, then everybody needs to be gone. Because they destroyed it all. They had an opportunity to build. Wants out. He wants out. He says that he wants to go somewhere to win championships. You know why? Because the Pelicans not even close. They're struggling. They are sitting there 22-28, and they just lost 3 games in a row. They face the Rockets coming up tomorrow. It's amazing, man. But anyway, when we come back, we're going to still talk about Anthony Davis news. We'll talk about possible trade scenarios for Anthony Davis, the cornerstone of the Pelicans franchise, for God's sake. We have the recaps and other news. Hang with us. You're listening to the Pelican Postgame Report on the PRO Media Network.
Forget ESPN or Fox. Get straight sports talk from the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys.
Sports fans are gearing up and saving big at Fanatics.com, the world's largest collection of officially licensed fan gear. From all the leagues, teams, and players you love, unique one-of-a-kind designs exclusively by Fanatics, and autographed collectibles from today's biggest stars shipped directly to your home. Join Fanatics Rewards for free to earn fan cash on every purchase. Shop now and for a limited time, get 20% off all orders. Fanatics.com, officially licensed everything.
Do you need a domain name? How about a host for your website that can work with WordPress? Try Namecheap.com. They make registering, hosting, and managing domain names for yourself or others easy and affordable because the internet needs people. Namecheap is an ICANN accredited domain register and technology company founded in 2000. It's one of the fastest growing American companies according to the 2018 Inc. 5000. Celebrating nearly 2 decades of providing unparalleled levels of service, security, and support. Namecheap has been steadfast in customer satisfaction with over 10 million domains under management. Namecheap is among the top domain registrars and web providers in the world. They offer a full selection of popular and unique domains along with fully featured hosting packages, SSL security certificates, WhoisGuard privacy protections, and more, all at the lowest prices in the industry. So if you need a domain name or hosting or anything else, think Namecheap.com. That's right, Namecheap.com. Check the description section below for link.
What's up, Sports World? The PRO Media Network is on a mission to reach 10,000 subscribers. So besides our regular programs like the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys, the Pelican Postgame Report, Rapid Fire TSC, and others, we will be expanding out and offering other content like movie, anime, and gaming reviews for your entertainment. So if you enjoy our content, please donate at our Patreon page. Also subscribe, comment, and share. And help the PRO Media Network reach 10,000 subs. Peace.
Get all the latest news and updates from your New Orleans Pelicans at the Pelicans Eye View. The new and official Pelicans Daily Journal, covering everything Pelicans. Attention, everyone. Get breakdown on games, free agent signings, and potential moves. Unbiased opinions and straight up facts with statistical analysis from G Valley. Go to www.thesportsdaily.com/Pelicans-I-View.
You're listening to the Pelicans postgame report on the PRO Media Network for all things Pelicans.
For all things Pelicans, you're listening to the Pelican postgame report on the PRO Media Network. A lot of stories, man, going on with the Pelicans, man. One of them is one of my favorite writers out there. It's Scott Kushner from The Advocate. Wrote an article saying, as Anthony Davis demands trade, the Pelicans are officially a failure at all levels. We got to get Scott back on the show, man, so he can give his take on this debacle, man, this foolishness. It's anybody that's been listening to the show, the Pelican Postgame Report, has known that I've been systematically documenting this team, and we went over and over and over and over this whole deal with Elvin Gentry and how the team is used. First, it was the fact, I ain't gonna say first, but my critiques of Elvin Gentry was the fact that I admire the way the offense runs at times, but the reality is you don't utilize your bench correctly. It puts too much pressure on the starters to produce, gives them very little margin for error. The guy goes into games and only uses 3 reserves off the bench to supplant 5 starters. This asinine. Doesn't have a credible bench rotation to help score points to take the pressure off the starters. That's keynote 1. 2, his defensive schemes suck. How you score 117 points a game but give up 116 points a game? Oh, big whoop. I mean, just this year, the first time in NBA history, you score 140 points and lose. That's never been done before. That's never been a team in NBA history in NBA history to ever score 140 points in a losing effort. Well, you know how you lose a game when you score 140 points? You know how you lose that game when you allow your opponent to score 147 points. So it's like they're not getting there because it's a number of things. It's several key things that happen, and it just rounded into this. And then you can see the body language of Anthony Davis. He was going out there. He's giving it his all. He's playing. He's getting hurt. He's playing all these ridiculous minutes because Elvin Gentry doesn't want to dig in the bench and use Jahlil Okafor until pressure started mounting for him to use Jahlil Okafor. Then they said, oh, wow, this man could play. Jahlil Okafor knew how to play. He knows how to play. This guy's no scrub. He was a top 5-6 draft pick 3 or 4 years ago. That fell out of favor in Philly because Philly wanted to bring in Embiid and a few other players. He comes here, sits on the bench, doesn't play. Elvin Gentry does not utilize him. One thing I can give Dale Demps and Danny Ferry, you remember it's both of them, is the fact that they did give the Pelicans talent. They gave the Pelicans talent. They gave them Ian Clark. They have Etwan Moore. They have very talented players, but the way he's utilized them is foolish. He should have a decent 4 or 5 guys off the bench that supplement the 5 starters. To help the bench score, because a lot of times you're counting on the 5 to get you over. And it just doesn't. Anthony Davis, I remember he scored 47 points one game, and the Pelicans beat a team by 4 points. He scored 44 points. He put 44, 47, something like that. And the Pelicans only won by 4 points. You know, so that's just goes to show me he has to score 40 or 45 points a game for the Pelicans to win games by 2 or 3 or 4 points. Then you get in front of the people. Well, play a few interviews from Elvin Gentry and notice how they all sound the same because the man really don't have any answers to why his team is underachieving, because he's not supposed to be. He's not supposed to be the coach of this Pelican team, because we knew exactly what this was. I've been yelling it and saying this is the wrong move here. Now we have to go through a whole scenario over again, like we losing Chris Paul, like we lost Chris Paul, and we have to do this whole rebuild thing all over again. And of course, let's go into the next level when we talk about where Anthony Davis goes. Now we know why he's leaving. Where does he go? What does the Pelicans do? You know, it's just, I don't want really lose Anthony Davis, but it's like a foregone conclusion now. You know, the tea leaves were on them. You know, they were there the whole time. Him switching agents, him moving out to L.A., and I knew it in the back of my mind, but I just was going based on what Anthony Davis saying. I'm a Pelican. I'm going to stay a Pelican. But when you see other guys who start to win and playing for championships and you can't beat those guys because your team is inadequate, and you lose faith in the administrators above you because they're not making any moves, Dale Demps sitting on his hands while injuries are mounting, and you refuse to make moves or trade or make trades for players to empower, to show the man that you're trying to do something, it's time for you to leave, man. But in essence, I think that Dale Demps should be gone because you failed. You lost Anthony Davis. And we're going to rebuild. No, you need to go because whatever vision you have, it didn't work. You need to be fired. You need to leave. And Elvin Gentry needs to go, and his entire staff needs to go with him. This needs to be a wipeout effort where we bring in a total fresh staff and get rid of all these people that was a part of that losing effort. We need to do a clean wash of the building. My only thing is Will Loomis and a few other guys that's above Dale Demps do it and bring in the correct basketball people. They should have brung in a basketball mind to run the basketball side. Mickey Mouse Loomis don't know nothing about no basketball, man. Come on. None of those guys at the top of basketball guys. Dale Demps is the best basketball brain they have, and we in trouble if that's the case. I'm not saying the man's stupid. What I'm saying is he's incredibly inexperienced on how to build a championship team. We need somebody that have the credentials that know what the hell they're doing. Maybe perhaps you can go get Jerry West and bring him as a consultant or somebody similar to that. You can come in and bring in as a consultant to help consult you on how to build a franchise the way it's supposed to be done. Now let's go into the section where we talk about what should they do with it. Who should we go? You guys chime in. Let me know what you think. Quack, DJ, and others, what do you guys think about which direction should we go now that Anthony Davis wants out? What should we do here? Of course, a few scenarios are making themselves present. Of course, the Lakers, who are behind this whole shenanigans, they're known to be tamperers. They paid over $500,000 in tampering fees. Of course, they're going to end up fining Anthony Davis because that's exactly where he wants to go. Paul, who is his agent, who's best friends with LeBron, this stuff is transparent. Come on. This stuff is not deep. AD has a house in Los Angeles. Come on, it's transparent. We can't stop that from happening. But the reality at the end of the day is that we had an opportunity to sway Anthony Davis' opinion in terms of say, listen, we trying to do something here. It's too late now. Anthony Davis' best case scenario, we send him for Lakers for Kuzma, Ball, and Brandon Ingram? I say no to that. Hell no to that. No to Ball, no to Ingram, and no to Kuzma. I like Kuzma and I like Ingram, but that doesn't help build no championship team here. That didn't put you where you're supposed to be. We look at Philly. Do we get Joel Embiid or I don't Ben Simmons for Anthony Davis? I don't think that does it for me. Even though I really like Ben Simmons, I don't think that happens. I think the best package, if you look at it overall and say Boston has the best package. Now, they can't do something until July, but the best package group of players you're going to get is from the Boston Celtics. Now, I would want them to throw Terry Rozier in there because I would love to have Scary Terry as a point guard here. But his contract is up, and I don't know if they can include him in any deal. But they already saying Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Marcus Smart, who just signed a big deal, and possibly Gordon in the package. Now, that's the best grouping of packages, and they probably throw some draft picks in there too. But that's the best grouping of packages you can get. But of course, that if that's the scenario, then the Pelicans are going to also get rid of most of all of their pieces. They're not going to keep Nikolai Mirotic or Julius Randle if Anthony Davis is not around. But like I said, there's a report that was out showing that the Pelicans were trying to move Etuan Moore, Nikolai Mirotic, and Julius Randle this past weekend for draft picks. Why? They don't draft in the draft. They don't build through the draft. Smart teams do that. You don't overpay. The Dale Demps way is to overpay for a veteran who hadn't done anything, a.k.a. Solomon Hill and a few other ones, Eric Gordon. These are, Umir Asik. Should I go on and on? Or the debacles, the disasters of players that we had through here that we gave up draft picks for. We even we traded a draft pick to get Umir Asik. Then he comes here, stinks it up after a few seasons. Then we trade a draft pick to Chicago to get him away. So we use our draft picks to trade bad contracts. Do you not realize how asinine that is? How just dysfunctional that is? That you don't trade draft picks, especially first rounders, to move out bad contracts because your scout skills or your ability to look at players is subpar and disastrous. So you use very credible ways of building a franchise through the draft by sending out draft picks to move bad contracts. Do you not understand how terrible that is? That's the Dale Demps way. Not to say Dale Demps didn't do well on some of his moves. That's not what I'm saying. But overall, his body of work is complete boulder dash is garbage, and he needs to go. When he picked Al Gentry, and Al Gentry was the last straw. You got a coach who had 1 year success out of 4 years, and ultimately, how did you allow it? Why did you not stop him from trying to turn Anthony Davis to a small ball center? And it really was no secret that Anthony Davis didn't want to be no center, man. And it's just silly people. But anyway, that's my take on it in terms of the Boston Celtics. I think the Celtics have the better package for the Pelicans. Man, would y'all chime in and let me know? I'm kind of a little down on this whole deal, to be honest with your family. I'm just really down on it. I don't like the fact that we squandered this opportunity with Anthony Davis, and Chris Paul, not Anthony Davis. We can't keep superstars. We grow these guys into great talent, and they go somewhere else and win, all because we are a joke of a franchise. We are a joke of a franchise. We're a dysfunctional joke of a franchise. And we're not going to be taken seriously until we get the right basketball personnel in there at the top. You got to get a basketball mind. Let him get the right general manager, and let him hire the right coach, and y'all build together. This stuff here that the L. Gentry and Dale Dempsey, it was a joke. It was a joke, and it's a joke, and it ended up it's not even a joke anymore. It's actually a tragedy now. Really is a tragedy. Anyway, looking at some of these other games that happened, the last 3 horrible, disastrous games the Pelicans played, which culminated in 3 straight losses. The first was, of course, the Detroit Pistons matchup, where they lose 98-94. They were actually competitive in this matchup. But despite holding Detroit to just 36 of 89 shooting from the floor, New Orleans went 6 of 22 from 3-point range. They went 4 of 9 for 44% from the free throw line. Pistons finished 13 of 33 from the 3-point line and 13 of 19 from the charity stripe. Griffin scored 20 of his 37 points in the opening quarter for Detroit, connecting on 6-11 from to 6. They take a 10-point lead in the halftime. Now, then trailing by 9 points heading to the fourth, the Pelicans open the final time frame 12-2, making that run to take the first lead since the closing moments of the first quarter when it was about 82-81 at that point. With about 7:42 remaining in regulation, Detroit quickly answered with an 11-5 run to take a 92-86 lead with about 4 minutes left. Now, New Orleans was able to cut the deficit to 3 and just under a minute remaining, but the Pistons was able to hold the late surge off in the Pelicans. Detroit grabbed about 3 of their 9 offensive rebounds in that time frame. Pelicans lose 98-94. It's just one of those deals where they continue to shoot themselves in the foot. Now, Drew Holiday just scored 29 points in the game. Julius Randle had about 13 rebounds, and then Drew had 7 assists in the matchup. Of course, you're dealing with a team that's suffering with a lot of injuries, and it just got to the point where you see all these guys who are sitting, dealing with their injuries, and someone have to step up. But it's one of those tough stretches where you have to play hard to break out. And the Pelicans, I don't know, Anthony Davis is the star of the team. You can see in his body language that he was kind of going over this thing in his head. You can really see it, and it's a shame, man, at the end of the day. But then we're going to the next matchup with the Pelicans face the OKC Thunder. That's actually a pretty lively game. 72 of the Pelicans, 116 points came in the paint, which was pretty good. 6 of the 9 Pelicans players that appeared in the contest finished in double figures. OKC out-rebounded the Pelicans 58-42, including like a 15-8 run on the offensive end. And after committing 10 first-half turnovers, New Orleans committed only 2 miscues in the second half, which was actually pretty good, to be honest with you, if you're a Pelican fan, because if you're watching Pelican brand of basketball, it's a hard thing to watch because they're so undisciplined. They turn the ball over all the time. They throw the ball when they don't even know what they're looking at. They kick the ball off their foot. It's like watching the Harlem Globetrotters game in reverse. Like they just make all the wrong moves. This is like a black cloud following them and raining over them. They just slipping, tripping, and it's crazy. But with the game tied at 45 with 5 minutes remaining in the first half, OKC closed the time frame about 22-8 run to take a 12-point edge into the break. And then after trailing 18 in the early stages of the fourth, New Orleans was able to cut the deficit to 5 points with about 1:38 remaining in regulation. But the Pelicans missed their first 4 field goal attempts. They missed their last 4 field goal attempts, and they were not able to hold off them. So they just started missing shots. It's just, I don't know what to say about it, man. It's just bad basketball. But let's hear what Coach L. Gentry, what he has to say about it, because maybe we'll learn something. Maybe we will, maybe we won't, but let's hear what he has to say, at least for the meanwhile.
We played hard. I thought we competed at a real high level. I thought we got ourselves in a little bit of trouble when we tried to do a little bit too much one-on-one. But when we moved the ball and we moved ourselves, a lot of good things happened for us. And it seemed like every time we got down, we found a way to get back in the game. And even at the end with 3 minutes to go, we down 16, I think, and we got it to 4 at one stage, or 5 at one stage, and had a breakaway layup that we just couldn't get in the basket. Frank was right there and just didn't get it in the basket. So a couple of things like that, and then Paul made some big shots for him. But I thought we competed as hard as we possibly could, and played very unselfishly, and put ourselves in a position to win. We just didn't have quite enough firepower to get over the hump. But I thought, Drew was great. I thought, Jaleel and Chet both played really good at the center spot, and we did everything we could. We just wasn't quite, we just didn't have quite enough firepower to go over the hump.
You mentioned the play that Frank had and that fast break, but do you feel like down the road this could be beneficial of different guys getting to play in the situation where they were, under pressure and, in a situation like this where they hadn't been maybe earlier in the season?
Well, I think what we showed is that if we compete at a real high level, that we should be able to play with anybody in this league, because that's a very good basketball team. Not only are they very good, but they're deep, and they got one of the best players in the league, and Russell, and Paul George have proven, he's a starter in the All-Star game. That's all you need to know. But I think you can see that if you just compete at a real high level and play hard and play unselfishly, you can keep yourself in a lot of these games, and some of them you'll be able to steal.
In those last few possessions, did you get the type of shots that you wanted?
No, we didn't. We did not. We did not run a three-point play to Chet the Owl. I can pretty much tell you that. Okay. So we did not get the shots that we set out to get.
What do you think of the job that Darius did, obviously coming into the starting lineup?
I thought all of our guys played. There's not anybody that I say played poorly. I thought everybody played well, and everybody did something to help us, to put us in a position where we were. And like I said, our whole thing is that we just didn't quite make the shots that we needed to. Had great looks. Had some really good looks. We just didn't quite make the shots that would have put us in a position where it became a 1-2 possession.
Coach L. Gentry fans chiming in on his thoughts on the game, the Thunder game, in which the Pelicans lost 122-116. They had an opportunity to win this game against a quality opponent, but turnovers, missed shots, bad shots, poor shots, they find a way to shoot themselves in the foot. And it's hard to watch because this team play with so much heart. They really do. You can never say that they don't play with heart. The problem is with them is that they just not disciplined. And what I mean by not disciplined is that they're not fundamental, meaning they don't do the fundamental things that most teams build upon. Like if you're not shooting the ball well from the three-point line, the next course of action is to attack the paint religiously. Not hurting yourself with miscues, meaning knowing where the ball is going. Meaning not throwing the ball away, turnovers, hitting free throws. Like when you are privileged enough to make it to the free throw line and the referee gives you an opportunity to get to the free throw line, you knock the free throws down. They help you win these games, because a lot of these close games, if they had hit a little bit more free throws, they would have won more than half these games that they lost. That's what it comes down to. The fundamentals of basketball that they don't even do well. That's why they just so bad. I mean, they're not terrible, but playing at this rate, they'll never catch the 500. They'll never get the 500. And even if they're fortunate enough to make it to the playoffs, just a team just going to run them out of it. They're going to just blank them if they're fortunate enough to win one game. Anthony Davis looked at the team and said, you know what, man, I'm wasting. And the guy approaching them saying, listen, man, you're going to waste all your good years away. Look guys like KD did. They went and played with other guys that took them to the next level. Who doesn't want to play with LeBron James? Rondo took a few less 100,000 to go play with LeBron James. Who doesn't, man? You can't fault them for that. It's just what it is. That's why it's up to the franchise to make it appealing to stay, because you're showing them that, hey, we're trying to compete, we're trying to build, we're trying to do something extraordinary here. Going to the next matchup, the Spur matchup, the Pelicans went into this matchup here, and actually, injuries abound. They were missing everybody. It was really, you were kind of hoping, like with OKC, they were competitive. What was going to happen in the San Antonio matchup with all these injuries? And I to myself, I was saying to myself, it's going to be difficult for them to get a win. But they out-rebounded. They were out-rebounded 51-41. San Antonio finished the game shooting almost 52%, 47-91 from the field, including 45, almost 49% from downtown. New Orleans was just about 47% from the floor and about 26% from three-point range. They held a 59-60 lead in the early stages of the second half. San Antonio went on a 7-4 run, taking a 77-63 lead with about 7 minutes remaining in the third. The Spurs went on a double-digit run for the remainder of the game and led as many points. I think it was like 21 points they led through midway through the fourth quarter. New Orleans, the Pelicans committed just 8 turnovers on the night, but they weren't even in this thing. Jahlil Okafor added a season-high 24 points to go with his game-high and season-high 15 rebounds. He was outstanding. We all know what Jahlil could do. And, of course, Greg Popovich became the NBA's all-time winningest coach on the road in the victory, securing his 521st win on the road. Could we have some of that here? Could we have a little of that here? I mean, something. Anyway, let's listen to what Elvin Gentry has to say about this matchup against the Spurs and what the hell happened as usual. Here is Gentry on that.
Number one team in the league is shooting them. But, we were so undersized that we had to try to help. And obviously, they're smart enough to understand that. And they're going to get the ball to their three-point shooters, and they made them. But, I thought we played hard. I thought we competed. We got Solomon guarding Pau Gasol. He's giving away, 6, 7, 8